Welcome to Blind Cafe's Naked DJs podcast, where every day we expose ourselves to the very best music. Some days we like to shake it up, some days we let it all hang out, and others we just like to stick it out there for you to listen to.
Welcome to another episode of the Naked DJs podcast, where we expose ourselves to music every day so that we can bring the best of it to our Blind Cafe radio listeners. Today we have DJ Curveball, DJ Lightning Blind Mike, DJ Maria, Dr. Johnny Love, and DJ Tom, along with myself, DJ Foxy Lady J. Today's topic is going to be about our DJs and what makes them think that they had a good show. Is it the music? Is it their personality? Is it the playlist that they put together? I know that when I do my shows, sometimes at the end of it, I have a big smile on my face and I'm like, yep, that one's going to come out good. So I would like to know from our other DJs how they feel about putting their shows together and if they know when they did a good one or if it was just so-so.
I think it's all the above. I think it's what you put in it, that you bring, the music that you play, because listeners are tuning in for the music. Mostly it's not necessarily about you, but also they can tune in anywhere and get the music that you're playing. But if you're giving, if you're putting a lot of thought into your playlist and the informational bits that you're doing as a personality, I think it all blends together. You should be exhausted once you get off the air.
You know, that's funny because sometimes I am, Curtis. If I really put a good playlist together and I talk a lot, not necessarily just sit there keep talking, but if I make little comments here and there, at the end of it I'm wore out. I'm like, that was really good.
Yeah, when I put my show together, it's correct. It's the playlist, it's the music, it's the personality. So it's all above. But when you're doing the show and you're talking, even though you have your playlist and your music and everything laid out properly, the format, and sometimes the words just don't come out right during the show, and you're just like, oh, I can't believe I said that, or I messed up, or anything like that. So it's definitely the two is the music and the playlist. You definitely have to have those perfect, the way you want to make sure they're leveled out properly so that you can actually follow the format. But the personality, yes, the DJ has to nail it or you could lose the audience. So it really is the DJ at the end. I think that helps also.
I definitely think you need to be in tuned with your show. I listened to Tom's this afternoon and I could tell a big difference between his show today and some of the other ones he did. He seemed to really be enjoying his show today.
I think that brings up a really good point. I feel like I need to play music that I enjoy and impart that to the audience, really. But I do agree that the audience chooses the music that they listen to, but then which station that plays this kind of music, that's the DJ.
Segueing the right amount of conversational content in between each song is important. You don't want to do too little or too much. Otherwise, you do lose your audience. In terms of my music content, I pay a great deal of attention to intro length, what keys the songs are in, and I try to build a certain theme in my music selection as well.
See, now, me, when I do my shows, I try to go with what the show is. Like Monday, Magical Monday, okay, we're going back to a certain year, pull songs from that year, do it, kind of do it that way, do it like that. But yeah, you're all right. It does involve the music and how you do it and stuff. But to me, like Julie says and Michael said, it is the DJ and the personality of the DJ to me that makes the show myself. That's just my opinion now.
Because if you don't have the great content or what you want to talk about during, for example, with my mixing up the music, I play all different types of music. So I have to be in tune with every song that I do. I have to make sure for whatever ones I speak on fit the song, basically. I want to add on to what Maria said. When you're doing your show, Maria, if you are playing the genres that you said you're going to play and you get a request out of the blue that somebody wants you to play something that's not what you're playing for your shows, then what you do is you should actually say, I'll send your request off to the DJ that does that, because right now I'm playing this. This is the genres that I'm playing. Is there anything I can play for you for what I'm, for the genres that you're playing? So if you're playing standards, you want to see if they're interested in requesting a standard. That's how I would look at that.
How would you handle that, Johnny?
Well, when I go on the air, like on Magical Monday, I say if you have a request for like a song, if I do say like 1978, if you have a request for a song from 1978 and 1978 only, then email me at dj.johnnyLove at blindcaferadio.com and, go that way. Any other thing, I'd be like, well, I'm not doing that format, but I can get you on my next show when I do that format. And most people are like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I handle it too. A lot of the requests I get are for oldies, and if I'm doing a special live at Maria's house, that's not not necessarily 50, 60, 70s.
Yeah, I heard a couple of those requests that some people asked from you. So the music that took you right out of your comfort zone.
And another way that you can handle it. Oh, go ahead, Maria. Sorry about that.
No, I was saying I would push it off to the oldies show, or I would push off the ones that I'm not comfortable with. They go to the live at Maria's house, because that's more of a mixed bag and special. It's not a set genre, but yeah, I have gone out of my comfort zone, and sometimes I will just be honest and say this is out of my comfort zone, but I like it.
Well, another way you could handle it is that you can only play so many songs. Depends on how many hours your show is, and if you run out of time, you just run out of time, and maybe you get it on the next show or something like that. If it's not out of the format or something like that, that's another way that you could handle it. And really, what DJs do and what radio stations do to get requests is to get people to listen, to make them think that their song is going to be played. Sometime it might get played. It might get played right away. It might be a couple hours, but it's to kind of get you to listen because, hey, I requested a song. They said they're going to play it. I'm going to listen until they play it.
Well, I remember making requests in the old days with radio and having things like that happen.
Yes, I remember that. But it's like yesterday, case in point, my sister Dawn requested a song first, and then about 5 minutes later, she wanted to hear another one, and I'm like, all right, that's how I do it. I try not to play too many people's requests in the same hour if I can help it.
Yep, exactly. Because
that's what I learned in school. You kind of keep them listening. If they don't know when it's going to play, so they're going to keep listening, just waiting for the next song to come on and hoping it's theirs.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even tell them that you're going to play it the next hour. Just say, all right, I got your request in. Thank you. And you just say you'll play it as soon as you can, and that will keep them listening. Julie, but I do have a question for you. You have your Manic Monday, so you have mixing up, sort of like a Manic Monday song. But my question is for your Love Is show. And my question is, if it's a love song, but say it's a real hard rock love song, is that something that you would play because it's the listener, or is that just not your style at all? Or how would you handle that if someone requested something like that?
I would not play a heavy metal love song, no. But there are a lot of rock songs, for example, Nickelback. They tend to be on the heavier side, but some of their songs are very much love songs, and they do fit into my show. Because I don't play all mushy songs. For example, today I played Bad Company, Shooting Star. You know, I play a little bit here and a little bit there. I played some old standards. I played some 80s. I try and mix up my love is. I don't think anybody wants to sit there for 2 hours and just listen to really, really slow love songs. You would get tired of that after a while.
Hey, if I send a request in for I used to love her, but I had to kill her. Could you play that for me next Thursday?
I don't think that's a love song, Johnny.
I think I might get
Banned.
censored for that.
No, no one will censor you.
So, you know, another idea that we thought of to make sure you get some requests. Before your show, a couple of hours before your show, you could tweet out some questions. See if people answer you, and then you could tell them that you were gonna play those answers on your show.
Yeah, Curtis came up with that, or told me about that. Basically, you just send out some questions in advance, and hopefully for some response, and then you'll have your content and everything put together when you decide to do your show. And for what Curtis told me, I thought that was an excellent idea.
Well, if you have a high level of engagement on your show, you wouldn't even have to do it in advance. It just depends on what you got going on. Some people are actually, while they're doing their show, they're actually interacting with their social media networks and their fans. So it just depends on how much engagement and interaction you get.
Yeah, because I hear some DJs get a lot of interaction and they're just busy. I mean, done with their 2-3 hour show. I mean, I like the interaction. I like the requests that I get. But as for a full 60-minute interaction talking to the fans, I would do it, but I know I'd be exhausted.
That's what's so special about Dr. Johnny Love. He knows how to talk to his audience. You know, even though he's talking into thin air, he always makes it come across as he's actually talking to his audience. I think that's really unique. To a guy on the radio today doing the same thing. The problem was he was so drab and so dreary, I could hardly hear him, and I thought, where's the enthusiasm? And Johnny brings that to the table, and that's why I asked the questions about each of you, how you feel when you do it. I know when I do my beach time, I try and get people to imagine that they're at the beach with me.
But Johnny is definitely a great talker, but he's not talking in the thin air. I think he's talking the Rex all the time. That's his conversation buddy.
Hey,
Well,
Rex,
what I like to do is when you are on the air, when you talk, you're talking to individuals. Whether you have one listener or a million, you want to make every listener feel like you're talking to them. So you don't say y'all, you say you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the show.
That's a great point, Curtis. That look, you know, if you're on the radio, you speak to the microphone, right to the individual. If you're on TV, and I've done that, you're looking at the camera as if you're looking right, eyeball to eyeball. It's all about taking care of the individual.
Yeah, I like to think that my listeners are guests in my house. And of course, I try to feed them.
And all my listeners, we're all up in the trailer hood here, you know, Redneck Central. That's where we at. And besides, Rex is my co-host. Oh no, that's Friday nights. He's my co-host.
Good old Rex.
So I try and make people be with me on the beach. For example, tomorrow I am going to my favourite beach in Melbourne, and I describe how I go up the steps, across the bridge, down the steps, take my sandals off, and just dig my feet into that soft, warm sand. And then I walk down to the water's edge and let the ripples of water just go over my feet and wash all the sand off. I try and get them to feel like they're at the beach too.
Well, just a quick question, Maria. What are your listeners eating tonight? I know you like to feed them. Listeners are eating white chicken chili.
Well, I don't have a show tonight, but they've eaten chili, yes. They've definitely eaten chicken.
Key lime pie.
Key lime pie.
Yes, I love
that's
key
one
lime
of my
pie.
opening songs. Yeah, I
Like my
remember
chicken
MJ
fried.
loved that. Yep, there are a lot of fried chicken
Yeah, me
songs.
too. I like my
There's,
chicken fried, you know, and cold beer on a
even
Friday
a chicken
night.
fried steak song. Yeah.
By Zach Brown.
Actually, and you guys have heard me do that going, yep, just sitting here having dinner. What am I having? Oh, I'm having some ravioli with some crab in it.
Yeah, well,
good.
when I celebrated Johnny's birthday, I had a ravioli song. And, of course, a cheesecake song.
How about a steak song? We need some steak and some chips.
Yeah, we got steak songs.
So, Tom, what do you do to try and make your voice or personality come across very enthusiastically in your shows?
I just try to be myself. First of all, I try to be very transparent. What you see is what you get.
Can you be transparent and awesome at the same time? I didn't know that's possible.
Oh, you bet. The awesomeness brings out transparency.
Well, then, heck, I must be shining.
There you go. See?
I was going to say hell. Good thing I didn't say that.
The awesomeness brings out transparency. Oh, that's going to be a saying one day.
We got it right now. We're going to come out with Blind Cafe Radio t-shirts and quote from DJ Tom.
The awesomeness brings out transparency. The other thing I try to do is there's a friend of mine who works for a radio station, and she does a Sunday morning drive, and the stations that they have covers about a 6-state area. And I've known Michelle for years, and I try to emulate a lot about what she does in terms of having a relational dialogue with your audience and making them feel a part of the show on the praise and worship in particular. I like to share things that are real. If I'm going through a difficult time, I like to share the circumstances and how God's helped me through it, and I share scriptures that fit that particular set of circumstances that I might be in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I mean, I try to joke around with the audience, but I can be straight up like, hey, I just got home from work and I'm dog tired, but you know what? I'm here now, so let's have some fun. But we're growing up with the DJs that Maria and I grew up listening to. Cousin Brucey, Harry Harrison. Oh, I'm trying to think.
Getting into my topic there, yeah, Ron Lundy.
Yeah, that's
Ron
what I was
Lundy.
going to say.
But I try to emulate them as an homage to them.
Well, while we just hit that subject, why don't we bring Maria's question into this? Because I think it will be good to mix and mingle both of the questions together, because first, and then I'll tell you where I think we should come from with this.
Lee's question inspired mine. I'm thinking of DJs of old that we remember, whether we grew up with them or just DJs that we like, and why we love them so much. And my favorites that I thought of were Ron Lundy, Cousin Brucey Morrow, and Don Imus. And I thought that they exuded warmth. They were cute. I liked their personalities. And they also had conversations not only with the audience, but also they had their own characters. Like, for example, Ron Lundy had Mama, who was Al Vertucci, actually an engineer, did this falsetto voice of Mama, and he would talk with her, and she'd have an Italian accent and make him feel guilty. And Don Imus had a whole slew of characters. He had a talk. Well, he played music, but there was a lot of talk. And I remember Jupiter, who's this kind of spaced out, innocent guy. But, Don Imus, he also sounded like a warm, friendly person. And certainly Bruce Morrow, very friendly. And he had his cat, Pussica Morrow, on the show plenty of times. You could hear her meowing. I don't know that it was a real cat or a person or what, but for years he would talk about Pussica. So it's like you kind of were brought into their lives somehow, real or fictitious. It didn't really make a difference.
I like that, Maria. You were brought into their lives. They made you feel a part of their shows. And that's one thing I would love us to do. When you think of a good DJ and why you listen to them, it's very important for us newbies to take from that. I grew up with great people like Terry Wogan and I just forgot his name, Jimmy Savile. And he always had a big cigar, and he would always say he was sitting back puffing on his cigar. And again, there was a lot of talk in their radio shows, more so than we do. We basically say who's coming on, and we may throw in the year that the song was released, but we don't have that warmth and energy and the amount of talking that they did. Johnny's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the rest of us are at that level.
Well, can I
See,
Well, I
Johnny
think
is
this
Johnny.
day,
It's
the reason
true.
why I don't talk a lot like that, because we were told in school that in these days in radio, people are not coming on to listen to you talk if it's a music show. So you really need to, less is best. So you need to say what you're going to say and get on. They don't want you rambling on for 5-10 minutes. And it used to not be like that, but that's how it is now. That's why I say what I have to say and get on.
Well, the thing about Johnny is I've known Johnny for years, even before he was a DJ, and Johnny's just being Johnny. And I think that's great.
Right, Curtis. A lot of times today, one of the reasons that people do listen to internet radio rather than regular radio is because they do want to hear more music and less commercials and chat.
There's been a lot of change in internet. There's been a lot of change in both internet radio and general broadcast radio over the past even 10 years, let alone, I hate to say this, 20, 30 years, when the folks that we grew up with the formatting was a lot different back 30 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever the case may be.
I've actually seen people, when I'm in the car with them, they will actually change the station. It's a morning show and people are supposed to talk in the morning. And as soon as they come on, you'll hear that station switching. I don't want to hear all that talking.
That's the thing, though, with the morning shows, and I'm not saying it just because Julie and I have a talk show, Talking Points, but in the morning, I would rather hear a lot of talk show. I used to listen to Frosty, Jamie, and Frank every morning when I went to work at Lockheed Martin, and I would listen to their talk show from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. when it was finished, and I'd listen to the whole show. So I really do enjoy the talk shows and listening to them. Now I understand it's a new era and it doesn't work that way, but I still do. I guess you can consider me old school. Now, when it comes to my favorite DJ or DJs I grew up listening to, there were just a few DJs that I heard here and there. Don't know their names. It was from Kim FM and a few other radio stations. But the most music that I listened to growing up was basically coming from my brother and his friends. Everybody, just because since I was the younger one, I was 6 years younger. I just heard them play records all the time. Records. That's the music that I grew up with, was records. I never really got to listen to the radio station itself until I was about 13, 14 years old, and then I heard a little bit more DJs.
When I moved out here to Indianapolis in '96, I started listening to the Bob and Tom show, and that's when it was really funny and stuff. Now, Bob Kavoyan retired back around, I think, 2016. He retired, and they still have the show, but it's not as funny as it used to be anymore. But the DJs like I grew up with, like Maria said, Ron Lundy, Cousin Brucey, Harry Harrison, Wolfman Jack, the Wolfman, yeah, Wolfman. Oh, yes, who does not remember Wolfman Jack?
There's very few Wolfman Jacks out there. But Michael, the reason they listen to us, the reason we have so many listeners in the morning, is they want to see which of us is going to mess up or laugh until we cry.
Well, the thing about your show, it's different than what a lot of things that we actually do. Your show is called Talking Points for a reason, and it's a different format. Most of the shows that we do on Blind Cafe Radio relate to just music. That's primarily what we're about.
Or
Well,
they want to find out on Talking Pet Day. Is it Johnny's? Is it Patty's? Is it Julie's? Maybe it's Michael's.
I know some of the DJs I like listening to are not necessarily grew up, but Greg the Hitman Williams out of Wichita, Kansas. He's the program director out there, and they have a morning show. I like a lot of his DJs that he's had. Different people like that. I like Sam and Jody, and all these are local. I try to listen to local as much as I can. I like DJ Cayman Kelly and Get Right Media on Sirius XM, so I like a lot of them.
I remember the first time I heard Howard Stern. I don't think I've ever been so shocked in all my life.
See, I
Yes.
never liked Howard Stern because he did not have that warmth. He talked a lot. He talked about his family, but he was very angry and hostile to me.
I like
I
Andrew
remember-
Dice Clay.
I remember Howard Stern. I remember the show. Let's see, I had to go HOWARDSTERN. And here's a little bit of trivia for you guys. If you've heard of the singer Larry Chance of Larry Chance and the Earls,
Yeah.
he used to play a character on Howard Stern's show at 3:00 in the afternoon. Geraldo Santana Banana was the character he played.
I
Oh.
remember him.
I didn't think too many people knew that.
I didn't know
And-
that was Larry Chance. I think I've heard of him, but Geraldo Santana Banana,
I
might
remember
have heard
Baba
him.
Booey, too.
Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Yes, I used to listen to Howard Stern back in the day before he went over to Sirius. He was okay, but I preferred Imus over Howard.
Ditto.
Yes, me too.
Typically what's happened to radio in general, there are huge media conglomerates, and they've just kind of taken over the airwaves, and everything is prepackaged, homogenized, and filtered to the point where really there isn't much personality in radio these days. And I that's what I like about internet radio. You can get back to basics with internet radio.
Okay,
And
I
you
can-
can thank iHeartMedia, for that big buy up, and they discussed that in school, how they've bought up a lot of the stations, they've downsized the jobs, and yeah, if you're in a big market, you're voice tracking. Smaller markets, you have some control over what you can do.
Yeah, I agree with that because when I took radio production in South Carolina, we had a media ethics class, and what happened was when President Clinton signed, I think it was in '96 or '97, I don't know, I think it was the TAPP or something like that. When he signed that deal, that opened up the floodgates, and radio companies were being traded left and right, and they started downsizing, and that was the end of that. And like Curtis says, most of them do their work from home, voice track, email it in, and they have a board operator puts it all in there.
I have a friend that's what he does. And that's what he does for a living. He makes voice tracks for commercials.
You can make good
One
money
person
doing
can voice
voiceovers
track
and
50
stuff.
radio stations.
But there is a lot of money to be made doing voice tracking and stuff like, voiceovers and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not like it used to be, like when we all were growing up and stuff. Well, I don't know. Julie,
Yeah,
did
but
you ever grow up?
voiceovers
No.
are different than voice tracking. Voiceovers are like voiceover in corporate commercials, different things like that, ads. Voice tracking is just voice tracking the show, just like we're talking about our radio shows. But just imagine if they were voice tracked. Of course, they're not. But if they were, just imagine.
Yeah, I've tried voice tracking. I like it if I can do it just for an hour, but I'd rather do my show live.
If that's the case, you don't ever want to work for a big market radio station, because most of them, that's what you have to do. You have to voice track.
Julie, we still...
If you can get into a big market, then good luck.
And I think we'll bring in our next DJ at this point. This seems like a very good time to bring in DJ Curtis Curveball and his question.
Well, basically, my topic today, I am going to be talking about Paul McCartney's daughter, Mary, making a documentary for Abbey Road. Apparently, this is a studio that the Beatles recorded 190 out of 210 songs. The documentary is called If These Walls Could Sing. Apparently, Mary has a lot of experience at that studio, and so she's going to be talking about it because apparently it's the 90th anniversary of the Abbey Road studio. I definitely want to check that documentary out and hear about the stories. Have you guys heard about this documentary? Have you heard about the Abbey Road studio or anything like that? What do you think about the documentary? You gonna check it out? Check it out.
I've read articles on the Abbey Road studio. I didn't realize that they were 90 years old.
Yeah, like Tom, I've done the same thing. I can't wait to see this documentary.
That's interesting. So they've been around since 1931 at least, and long before the Beatles. But they're famous for. It's pretty cool. I read the article that you posted, Curtis, and Mary was saying that she had a lot of childhood memories there. I guess she must have seen her dad at work.
Yeah, and because they recorded 190 songs out of 210, so most of the work was done there. Where is the Abbey Road studio? Maybe I kind of overlooked it. I kind of had to skim and run in here real quick.
All I know is that it's in England. I don't know what part. But I'm going to guess Liverpool, but I don't know.
No, it's in London.
Yes, Abbey Road is in London.
Connie Francis recorded there too.
That I did not know.
They also
I
came
can't
out...
wait to listen to this documentary. This sounds... I bet it's just wonderful.
Yes, I agree. I would love to listen to that documentary as well. I grew up listening to the Beatles. Like I said, my brother is way 6 years older than I am. So I grew up listening to the Beatles, the Stones. It wasn't even my era, but I still grew up and listened to it because that's what he did. And Abbey Road, yes, I know we've done a lot of reading up on Abbey Road, the studio, before. But the Beatles also had an album called Abbey Road.
Was that the one where they're walking across the
Street, yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
and
that's
that
a
album
real
is
famous
dedicated to that studio. That's another thing that was said in the article, the Abbey Road. It is dedicated to that studio. That's what it's about.
Now, I did find out about the album. If you guys, for the people that has, I believe, I don't know if all of us have had Vision once or not, but if you remember correctly, the Abbey Road studio, it is where they're walking across the street. But the UK version for the photograph of the album is them walking across the street wearing, the white clothes, meat clippers in their hands, and that was for the UK crowd. But when the album was released in the United States, they were wearing their outfits. So I thought that was interesting.
Is that the one where Paul is supposedly barefoot and at the end of Strawberry
Yes.
Fields you hear cranberry sauce or I buried Paul or something? Or I'm very bored. That was another thing they claimed it was.
I Buried Paul is definitely what it said. I actually took the record and tweaked the sound on the end, and it definitely said I Buried Paul.
Not cranberry sauce or I'm very, very bored, is as they claimed, huh? Oh, wow. And supposedly there was a rumor that went out at that time that Paul McCartney was dead.
Right, that's why he's supposed to be barefoot. I think John Lennon was dressed as the preacher. George Harrison was dressed as the gravedigger, and I forgot what Ringo was.
Wasn't he a drummer? Does anybody else remember that cover of the album?
I definitely do.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming to this week's podcast. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did. And I hope that everyone listens to Blind Cafe Radio, the station that raises Cain.
Go and check out Blind Cafe Radio at blindcaferadio.com and also follow us on Twitter at Blind Cafe Radio and on Facebook at Blind Cafe Radio. Make sure you visit our webpage at blindcaferadio.com where you can visit our naked DJ. And this is the Blind Cafe Kangaroo signing off.